So in this video, we're going to talk about PTEN. And PTEN is an integral regulator of the PI3 kinase AKT pathway. And we've covered previously the role of PI3 kinase in regulating the levels of PIP3. And now we're going to talk about PTEN regulating the levels of PIP3. So in previous videos, we talked about how PI3 kinase can receive signals from outside the cell, signals that are funneled through, for example, receptor tyrosine kinases or RAS GTP that will allow PI3 kinase to become active and phosphorylate PIP2, converting it to PIP3. And PIP3, as we'll see in later videos, can activate intracellular signaling pathways, such as the AKT pathway. And that can help get cells go through the cell cycle, help prevent apoptosis, help increase protein production and glucose metabolism. So PIP3 is going to be a very important signaling molecule. But let's talk about one more mechanism to regulate the level of PIP3 in cells. At some point, cells would not want to go through the cell cycle. They want to reset themselves and go back into G1. So let's say they've completed the cell cycle, they've gone G1S, G2M. Well, we need to reduce the levels of PIP3 so we can stop sending this pro-growth, pro-proliferation signal. So how does the cell decrease the amount of PIP3? And so the answer is the expression of a phosphatase. So again, when we talked about the structure of PIP2 and the structure of PIP3, right, PI3 kinase adds a phosphate to the 3' hydroxyl of PIP2, creating PIP3. Well, now to remove that phosphate on the 3' carbon, a phosphatase comes along called PTEN. We're not going to talk about what it stands for, but it does stand for something, but it doesn't matter. PTEN is a phosphatase, and it will convert PIP3 back into PIP2. And so then cells have lower levels of PIP3, and they're not sending those pro-growth, pro-survival signals. So PTEN is a very important regulator for stopping the cell cycle or resetting the cell back into G1. And we could go into all the things that regulate PTEN levels in the cell, but we're not going to talk about that in the video because I want to focus on PTEN's role in cancer in this video. So there are plenty of things that regulate the levels of PTEN and the activity of PTEN in cells, but we're not going to go into that in this video. What I do want to talk about is PTEN's role in human cancers, because PTEN, the gene that codes for PTEN, is often mutated in human cancers. So what kind of mutations? So first, what do you think? Do you think PTEN is an oncogene or a tumor suppressor gene? Do you think it is overproduced, overabundant, and overactive in cancers that would make it an oncogene? Or do you think it is deleted, removed, destroyed in tumor suppressor, in cancer cells that would make it a tumor suppressor, possibly, right? So PTEN is in fact a tumor suppressor gene. So tumor suppressor genes are often deleted in human cancers. And in fact, that is what occurs in many human cancers. The PTEN gene, either one copy or both copies, are deleted. And reducing the level of PTEN in a cell, either by deletion of one or both copies of PTEN or inactivating point mutations that lead to loss of function of PTEN, so it's no longer able to catalyze the removal of the phosphate. Those are two types of mutations one might find in PTEN. What would that do to the cell? Well, if PTEN is no longer able to remove that phosphate from PIP3, either because PTEN has a point mutation that inactivates its phosphatase activity or it's deleted, its levels are lower, then levels of PIP3 will be high in the cell. And if levels of PIP3 are higher in the cell, PIP3 will be sending signals into the cell via a number of pathways that allow the cell to proliferate, go through G1 into S, survive, pro-survival signals, have a high metabolism, have high protein production, and that would be bad. That would cause cancer, lead to cancer, play a part in cancer. So it's important to understand PTEN because it regulates levels of PIP3, and PTEN, like I mentioned, is commonly deleted in human cancers. Not all human cancers, some cancers more than others. For example, I believe in colon cancers, about 50% of colon cancers have a PTEN deletion. So some cancers have more frequent PTEN deletions or mutations than others. So hopefully in this video you understand the role of PTEN and why it's important to have in cells and why a mutation in PTEN could lead to cancer. In later videos, we will talk about PIP3 and how it stimulates the AKT pathway.